Okay, good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. We are gonna start with the agenda. Does anyone have any amendments to the agenda? Please raise your hands. Russell?
Can we please strike capital contingency allocations?
Yep. Nico?
Hi all, can I scratch a USA/BOD allocations?
Alex?
Hi, I'm not sure if I should motion now or later in the meeting, but motion to add OSAC allocations.
We can do that now. Could you get a second?
I second.
Alex motions, Tamim seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10-0 vote, that passes. Do we have any more amendments, Alicia?
Can we please strike ARC allocations?
Yep. Carolyn?
Can I add a discussion item on the GCGP Basic Needs Redistribution Center?
Yep. Also, I believe we might have some proxies that are attendees. If you're a proxy, please raise your hand so we could promote you. If you're an attendee, not if you're, yeah. Russell, do you have another amendment? No. Josh?
Hi, can I please add a bylaw change to the agenda?
Yeah, you should motion. Oh no, or no, sorry, because it's 2-week thing. Yeah, you should just add it. Any more amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can we please get that approved?
Motion to approve the November 12th USAC agenda.
I second.
Robbie motions, Alex seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10-0 vote, that passes. Do we have any minutes to approve, Kendall?
November 5th.
Thank you. Could someone please motion for those?
Motion to approve the November 5th minutes.
I second.
Robbie motions, Tamim seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11-0 vote, those minutes are approved. We're now going to move on to public comment. Just a reminder for everyone that's here for public comment, we have 30 minutes total. Each public commenter will get 2 minutes to speak once. And some of our community guidelines are challenge ideas, not individuals, use gender inclusive and respectful language, and no dehumanizing language. With that being said, if anyone here, anyone with us online is here for public comment, please raise your hands now. Andrew?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So hi, my name is Andrew Choi. I am the executive director for Combrio String Orchestra. Today I just wanted to talk about some allocations we were approved of but ended up not receiving from the Cultural Affairs Committee via the Arts Restoring Fund. Last spring quarter, CPSO was allocated and approved $292.94 during the spring funding period for our 2024 spring concert. 3 requisition forms were submitted on time to access this allocation. However, they were not processed by SGA because they were never signed or submitted by CAC, which we discovered after multiple contacts to SGA. CPSO has attempted to be in contact with CAC about these requisitions since May 26th. However, they were never signed, and now that the funding period is closed, CAC has informed us that we will no longer be able to receive these allocations. On top of these 3 requisitions, CAC ARC also approved of a recharge order request of $1,080 and stated on email communication back in spring quarter that they would process it. However, after multiple follow-up attempts via email, from the same spring funding period until now, there were no responses to our inquiries and no recharge order made, leaving our venue as of yet unpaid. These denied requisition forms and the denied recharge order request are a huge burden on our young organization and the individuals who were promised reimbursement from these approved allocations. We believe that it is unfair that even though we were approved of these allocations and submitted the requisition forms on time, that we are being denied these funds now due to CAC's failure to sign the forms. We have tried fundraising and crowdsourcing the money, but it has not really been successful yet, and we ask that our total allocation of $1,372.94 is reallocated to this year's funding so that we can continue to provide edutainment through our concerts and outreach program to the UCLA and LA community. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, for your public comment. Unfortunately, during public comment, we usually don't go back and forth with public commenters. However, I will open the floor up to Alicia if she doesn't want to, if they want to say anything. If not, we'd have to deal with this offline. Yeah, go ahead, Alicia.
Yeah, we can communicate further. We were communicating this past month, and because the ROR wasn't included in your original allocation, that's where most of the problems are coming from. But we can further discuss this, and I'll speak to my sole advisor to see how we can find solutions for you. But thanks for coming.
Thanks, Alicia. Is anyone else here online for public comments? Please raise your hands. Seeing none, I will close public comment at 7:12 p.m. And we're going to move on to our funding, starting with contingency. We have Russell.
Hi everyone. I'm Russell Mo, and I'm the FICOM proxy for Bethany. This week we had a total contingency programming request of $32,201, and we recommend an allocation of $9,568.67 for 34 non-USAC entities and 3 USAC entities. Happy to answer any questions, and I'm also going to paste this into the chat.
Thank you, Russell. If no one has any questions, could we motion for that to be approved as soon as Russell? Yeah. Tamim?
Motion to allocate $32,201. Motion to allocate $9,568.67 for 34 non-USAC entities and 3 USAC entities.
Thank you. Can we get a second?
A second.
Tamim motions, Josh seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11-0 vote, that allocation is approved. We are now going to move on to SFS with Karen.
Yes, this week we had a total SFS allocation of $5,420 to 4 non-USAC entities and 1 USAC entity. I'll put that in the chat too.
Thank you, Karen. Since this is a consent item, do we have any opposition? Seeing none, we're going to move on to SWC Programming Fund with Kiara.
Hi there, apologies. I think I came on a little bit late past the agenda amendments, but there are no allocations from the SWC funding programming fund this week.
Sounds good. We're going to move on to BAG with Javier, which I don't know if they're here, but they might have a proxy. Anyways, BAG isn't allocating this week, sorry. We're going to move on to ASRF with Chris Espino.
Hi, y'all. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm the proxy for Chris, and for the ASRF, we are recommending an allocation of $134.55 to 1 non-USAC entity. Just to repeat, it's $134.55.
Thank you. Since this is a consent item, is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, we're going to move on to travel mini grant allocations.
We are also recommending an allocation of $800 to 2 non-USAC entities as well.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, we're going to move on to TGIF.
Hi, everyone. The Green Initiative Fund allocated $386.22 to one non-USAC entity and 0 USAC entities.
Thank you, Alex. We're now going to move on to special presentations, starting with a off-campus partners introduction.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can hear you great.
Okay, awesome. Hi, I am Tiffany Crosby. I am the Senior Director at Off Campus Partners, and I have my colleague Jalissa Yonker with us here today as well. She is our Strategic University Partnership Manager. Thank you all for your time. We are here today just to give you a little context before we go right into the presentation. We're here today because we previously worked with USAC to bring forward our off-campus housing initiative to support UCLA students to simplify the search for off-campus housing, find roommates, as well as resources. We actually got to the contract stage with UCLA Housing to move this forward as the previous USAC team had voted to move this initiative forward. Recently, Housing shared with us that they don't believe this is a need of UCLA students, and so we're here today. We believe there is a large need and want to walk through with you all our service, how it would support students, and see if this is something that you can help support to encourage UCLA Housing to move forward with this initiative and continue. So just to give you a little background, and then I'm going to hand it to Jalissa to dig into the presentation. Our company is the industry leader in off-campus housing software. We were actually founded 22 years ago at the University of Virginia. We were started by students for students to really streamline the off-campus housing experience. So our mission is to simplify the off-campus housing experience for universities, students, and property managers through our website platform that we're going to demo for you today. So just to give you some context, our service is free, completely free to students, completely free to the university. We actually charge area property managers to advertise on this service, which is how we fund that service. We are part of the apartments.com network, which is the nation's leading rental marketplace, but we have a lot of benefits that come with our service. We have a local team there in LA to help bring as many housing options to students as possible. So really appreciate your time. I'm gonna pass it off to Jalissa so we can dig in, and then we'll leave a few minutes at the end for questions as well.
All right. Hey, everyone. You can all see my screen, right?
Yes.
Always got to ask. Okay, perfect. So like Tiffany said, my name is Jalissa, so definitely excited to be here with you all today. We did want to start just by going over a little bit of, again, that context of UCLA and the need that we see for off-campus housing being really important for your students. So as you may know, UCLA has about 48,000 total students, with more than 34,000 students needing to live off campus. This includes over 12,000 international students, a large group from out of state. So many of those students may not be familiar with the LA rental market. And for a lot of students, it can be really overwhelming in general and really confusing to figure out how to navigate finding an apartment, renting off campus, and really working through all of that. Just within 3 miles of the UCLA campus, there's over 3,000 apartment communities, and that's not even including additional rentals like individual owners, things like that. So doing a quick Google search, you're going to get about 16 million different search results. So sifting through all of that to find where to live can be very confusing and hard to know where to start. So gotta go over here. And then on top of that, there are just a lot of other barriers that that students really face when looking for off-campus housing. So you can imagine combing through those millions of search results to find housing that's affordable, safe, fits your needs is going to be really, really daunting. So without any support services on campus to help you do that, it is even more confusing and easy for students to kind of feel lost going through that process, especially if they're really unfamiliar with, again, LA or renting in general. So that is where we come in with our off-campus housing websites. I'm actually going to demo our partner site with UC San Diego and kind of go through high level what our platforms really offer. Like Tiffany said, they are completely free. Our service is completely free for students in the university. And it includes a few core components, which I'll kind of click through. So on the homepage, you can see that our platforms are completely branded with the university. So we use the logos, colors, .edu URL. So when students find it, you know that it is that official university website, so you can feel safe looking for your housing here. There's some announcements on the homepage, so universities can post any announcements or information about, off-campus housing or campus updates, anything that may be helpful for students to see. And then the sites also translate into over 100 languages using Google Translate, so super helpful for students to be able to navigate through in their own language as well. There is an educational resource section. So this section is really important because, again, navigating through how to sign a lease, how to find off-campus housing, what if I need a roommate, what are utilities? I need to set those up myself. Like there's a lot of questions and things that you need to work through when you're trying to rent an apartment. And our goal is really to help provide as much information and education possible to make sure that students feel comfortable navigating through this when they get to that point. So we work with the universities to really prepare and provide a lot of different content on just the rental process, university resources about the city, and really anything that's going to be helpful as you're kind of working through this process. We also have a roommate finder, so helping students really easily find a roommate to live with off campus. As you may know, renting an apartment is pretty expensive. Affordability is an issue. Living with a roommate can often help offset that cost, but finding somebody that you want to live with is also very complex. So we have the roommate finder that students are able to go on the website, create a profile, and then start searching for other students who they may want to live with, and then reaching out, connecting, and find hopefully your new roommate that way. So that's all also secured through the university. So we do integrate with the university's single sign-on or email verification. So anybody that is going to be in that roommate section, is only going to be a roommate. So you're not going to be connecting with random people and having to figure out who they are. It is all verified through the university so that, again, it's a safe platform that you can use to do that for. And then we have our housing search. So again, like Tiffany mentioned, we are a part of the apartments.com network, which is really great and helps us provide the most rental listings possible for students in a wide variety. So again, we know that, housing is expensive, it's hard to find, and we want to make sure that you have as many options as possible. So our local team in the market is working with those local apartment communities. We have the opportunity for like individual owners to post their rental listings online. We also have the ability for students to post sublet options, so you can search and post sublet options and find housing that way. So there's a lot of different ways that we're able to kind of provide that variety of rental listing. On the map on the left, we always mark where campus is at, so you can easily see where the rentals are in relation to campus. If you hover over the pins, you're able to see some high-level information, like scroll through the photos, price point, how many miles away from campus it is. You can favorite properties, all that good stuff. And on the right-hand side, on the listings, you can also see that same information. And then there are a lot of ways where you can filter down housing to really narrow it down to get something that you're looking for. As we're scrolled in here, you can see there's 268 listings. That's a lot to start with. But as you kind of go through, you can sort by different campuses or neighborhoods, price point, building type, variety of other amenities, lease terms, and things like that. So if you're looking for something specific, you can kind of filter down and make sure that the listings that are pulling up are really going to fit your needs. And then once you decide that one of these properties looks great, you click in, and then you're going to get a lot of other information about that property. So you can see, again, some really great photos. A lot of properties are going to have videos or virtual tours to help you really understand what this property looks like as well. Let's see if that. Here, I'm going to pop back out of here. Usually they're embedded right in there. I'm going to click on, I think this one. Here we go. So for the properties that have the virtual tours kind of embedded in, this is really helpful, especially for students who may not be in the area, if you're international or just can't get in person to tour the properties. You can kind of walk through and really feel like you're there. So there are a lot of features like this on the site to give you as much information as possible, floor plan information. So really getting a good idea of what this property is like, different floor plan information, pricing, description, amenities. And then we also have this really cool feature in each map where you can select the campus and then it's going to tell you your planned commute. So whether you're driving, walking, biking, taking public transit, it's going to give you that planned commute route. So you can actually figure out like, oh, this property may or may not work based on how long it's going to take me to get to campus. And soon we'll actually be integrating points of interest. So you'll be able to select the library or the rec center and get that commute time as well. And then we also have this, the Google Street View. So if you drag that little person over, you can actually see what the area surrounding looks like as well. So really making sure you're getting as much information as possible about the area. And then we're pulling in a lot of other information as well. So you can really gauge and make sure that not only the property is fitting all of your criteria, but the surrounding area as well. So it's going to give you bike score, transit score, walk score, all that good stuff. So you can really get a good idea. And then we're also pulling in ratings and reviews from apartments.com. So just giving you some of that extra context as well and being able to see any reviews that have been written and what their star rating is. And then you can also write your own review if you've lived there and want to leave some feedback on a property as well. And then you're always able to, jump to the community website, see more information. And then as soon as you find a property that you may be interested in, once you're signed in, this email form is going to be popped up here and it never goes away. So it's very easy to find. And then as soon as you want to reach out, you just put in your information, send the message, and it's going to email the property directly so that they can reach back out. So just really making it easy, again, to search for all your options near campus, compare options, and reach out to properties that really are going to fit what you're looking for in terms of housing. And that was a very high level overview, but I know we didn't have too long, so I don't want to take up any more time, but we'll get to questions and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and I did want to add one thing as well, just to give you all context. We do work with over 150 colleges and universities across the country and 5 UC system schools. So we work with almost all UC system schools aside from UCLA. So excited again to be here and answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you for that. Do any council members have any questions? Josh?
Hi, Tiffany and Julissa. Thank you so much for coming tonight. Super happy to work with you guys on this separately with UCLA Housing as well. I just had a super quick question. If this service was implemented with UCLA, it wouldn't have any financial burden on students, right?
No. So everything is free to students. Like I said, the way that we fund that service is by charging area properties to post on that service. And so that's how we manage that specifically. We do actually, when we partner with university, also have a revenue share component. So we do share a portion of fees back to UCLA Housing to invest back into student initiatives. So there's also that benefit as well. Great question.
Does anyone else have any questions? Chris Ramsey.
Hey, thank you so much for presenting today. So I'm just kind of curious, because I know that there are some UCs that you currently work with, some UCs that you don't. I'm curious if like you've approached UCLA before with this potential type of plan partnership, and with UCLA as well as with other schools, why it didn't end up happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to provide context. So I believe it was about 2 years ago, we had actually worked specifically with USAC with that team. Specifically, I had worked with Herman. And essentially we did the exact same thing that we did today, presented, the team voted on it specifically, and worked with UCLA Housing to say, this is, who we want to work with. This is the initiative we want to push forward. We started that contract process, continued to check in on that, didn't make any real forward movement for a while. And then, like I said, just recently heard from UCLA that they didn't think that it was as much of a student need anymore as it was previously. Now, the other UC system schools that we work with UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, UC Riverside, UC Merced, and UC Irvine. And there certainly is a need at all of those universities. We've worked with them for many, many years. We see similarities at UCLA, so we certainly feel like there is a similar need there. It's huge campus, Obviously, even if you are living on campus your first year, many students are living off campus, and we know how difficult of an experience that is. So that's really the only reason that we've been given at this point. I know that even to get this started a couple years ago, it did need student support, I think, for UCLA Housing to feel that this was important. Obviously, UCLA Housing is focused a lot on on-campus housing experience, which is really important to student development. But this is really looking to all the other students, right, that are not living on campus, and how do we support those?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any final questions? Tiffany and Jalissa, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so I know Josh and I have been in contact, and he has my email. I will send an email, Josh, and include Jalissa's contact as well. And then, yeah, if we can, obviously, we can continue to chat, Josh, after you all have some time to review and see what your thoughts are, and then figure out next steps. But yes, would love your support, obviously, going to UCLA Housing to say, you know, that this is something that would be helpful if you think that it would be. And then from there, hopefully, if that is enough to push it forward, then we can just get right back on track with reviewing that contract and moving that initiative forward.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
We're gonna move on to a update from BOD. I believe we have Hia that's here to present.
Hi everyone. Please let me know if you can't hear me, but I think we also have the other undergrad reps with us in this meeting. So Aisha and Evan are here. I don't think Tiara has joined yet, but yeah. So we're gonna do a little presentation. I think I can share my screen. I can share my screen, right, Josh? Or is it you?
You should be able to.
Okay, perfect. I'm just gonna pull that up. And the purpose of this presentation is essentially just to provide updates on what's been happening on our end of things, what's been happening at the board meetings, what we've been discussing, and of course, we will take questions at the end. So, yeah. All right, please let me know if you can see my screen. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So we'll go over the updates, but before that, I will reintroduce myself for anyone I haven't met yet, but I'm pretty sure I've met all you guys at some point. My name is Hia. I'm doing my second year on ASUCLA BOD. I'm currently the chair of the board, and I'm a fourth year poli-sci and communications double major, and I use she, her pronouns. And I'll let Aisha and Evan introduce themselves as well.
Hi, I'm Aisha. This is my first year on BOD and I'm a third year comp bio major. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Evan, pronouns he, him. I'm a third year statistics and computational bio double major.
Perfect. All right, I'll hand it over to Aisha and Evan for the updates, and yeah.
Wait, can you go next slide?
Oh, do you guys not see the update slide? Wow, okay. Do you guys see it now?
Okay, so I'm gonna get started on updates. The first one is that we've began the Pathway program, which is coordinated through UCLA Extension, and it provides job training and work experiences for neurodivergent youth. I don't know if you've seen, but like there was a post on the Instagram at Jimmy's, and you may have seen people are on campus. So it's a 2-year college program for students who identify as neurodiverse, and it offers a blend of educational, social, and vocational experiences. It's basically like an internship program for them. We're also in the process to expand CalFresh acceptance at additional locations, with Hilltop Shop being the next location that we are seeking and going through the certification process from USDA. We are also working with various stakeholders to support signups for Bruin community members eligible for CalFresh. This will look like fairs to help students sign up for CalFresh. And then capital projects are ongoing. The passenger elevator repair and overhaul at Ackerman has been initiated. Freight elevators and roof repair replacements were completed. Wait, could you go next slide?
I did, but I don't know why it's not moving.
Okay, I have the slides up, so I can.
I don't know if I have to do
Okay.
this for every single
I
slide.
think it's fine. But basically, we also have noontime concerts, movie screenings, and watch parties that are ongoing and have been really well received. The t-shirt design contest is ongoing, and entries are planned to be showcased tomorrow, in front of the UCLA store. So please go and vote. Collaborations with UCLA Rec are ongoing to upgrade the Bruin Fun Zone to an e-gaming lounge. And now, Evan.
Hey, Josh, would you mind sharing instead? Because I don't know why my screen sharing is like pausing in the middle.
Yeah, let me pull up the slides 1 sec.
And while Josh does that, I just wanted to add some stuff to what the updates that Aisha was talking about. The first thing being that the CalFresh acceptance, yeah, they're going to basically look like fairs, but a question that we do get a lot is that if you're not, like, for example, I'm international and I'm not eligible for CalFresh, and there are lots of people like me who are not eligible for CalFresh. So what we're trying to work on is to work in sort of other resources available at these fairs, which do cater to like international students and people who are not eligible for CalFresh. So they'll probably also look like basic needs fairs, where it's just a blend of resources, and there's also the CalFresh sign up. So that's one thing. And the second thing was about the Pathways program. One other question that we had received before was that are the people in the program, are they paid for the internship? And the answer is yes, they are. So they fully complete like a fully paid internship while they're working and doing the classes. So yeah, those were my 2 additions. But yeah, Evan, if you wanted to add anything to the updates.
I think I'm good to move on to the next slide.
Okay.
I don't know
So
what's happening for me. I'm sorry, it's a little frozen.
that's okay. I can do the slide. No worries. So essentially, we also wanted to take this opportunity, this presentation, to sort of provide a step-by-step on how to bring issues to BOD. And the very basic structure of it would be, firstly, you would contact the undergrad or the grad rep who serves as the committee chairs. So every single BOD committee has a chair, and those are all undergrad or grad reps. So they're all students, and we have their contact infos later on in the presentation and with their emails and their names. So the first step would be to contact the chairs. Then the issue, and once you contact the chair, this essentially the process is like they would bring whatever issue you have or a document or resolution or whatever it is to their committee for discussion. And the purpose of this is essentially because committees allow the issue to be discussed more in depth, while the BOD meetings itself are not really, due to time and agenda constraints, is not the place where you would be able to have a lot of discussion or a lot of Q&A, but committee meetings are, and you can also do a presentation in the committee meetings. So once you contact the chair, they will put it on their agenda, they will talk to you about it, and it'll be discussed in their committee. And you are welcome to attend that committee meeting. You just have to tell them that you want to attend or you want to make a presentation. It's not mandatory to make a presentation. You can just be there to ask questions, whatever it is. And after that, if there is an action or discussion item that's coming out of that committee meeting, that gets put on the BOD agenda. So when the full board meets, it comes from the committee, the agenda item. And the purpose and the reason that we wanted to put this in there is because almost everything, like 95% of stuff that is on the BOD, like the full board meeting agenda is something that has originated in a committee. So everything is first discussed in the committee, and then when the full board it's just about like pass, not pass, we vote on it, and maybe one or two questions. So that's why this is the process, and the most productive way to get your issue discussed is to go through the committee, and then the committee chair takes it out as an action or discussion item and puts it on the BOD agenda. And that gets approved, not approved, or we do like one or two questions maybe in the full board meeting. And can you go to the next slide, please, Josh? Thank you. And yeah, Evan, if it's not freezing for you anymore, you can take over.
Yeah, so yeah, just to like recap or reiterate what he has said, right? Like in general, in order for us to implement any sort of policy change or like put forward a statement or I think, address the issue in general, that has to be something that is like discussed and also voted on at a board of directors meeting. And I kind of just wanted to be like very honest and open with like how that process is because it does like this is something that I didn't discover obviously until joining the board that there is a certain way and a certain process that the board has for like bringing up issues or for addressing things that we would want to address through ASU CLA. And so something that I also want to add was that this process can honestly take a while since committee meetings, they only meet once every month. So depending on like when you would send out that email or when you would bring it up with like the chairperson, depending on when that happens, like it would probably be slated for the next services committee meeting, for example, right? And that can be anywhere from, like a month from now or like tomorrow, right? But then after it's discussed within the committee, it obviously does have to go to the full board of directors meeting as well. And that's also like, those also only happen once a month. So in general, just to like kind of, I think be realistic about like a timeline or like how long things in general take for things in general take to get addressed. Yeah, I think we just have to be kind of realistic and like understanding when these meetings occur and when they're able to be discussed. Because there's also the case that like one committee meeting may not be enough to discuss a certain issue. Like I know right now that we've had multiple meetings discussing a potential like student needs referendum, something like that. And that's something that might take a while. Or I know last year with like the Starbucks issue, as we like to call it, right? Like the Starbucks campaign, I think the peak of that was, maybe somewhere at the end of fall or beginning of winter, something like that. But we actually weren't able to switch that contract until August when that contract had expired. So yeah, I think I wanted to add that like in general, I think the timeline for things can be a lot slower than like even I had wanted it to be or any of us wanted to be. But that's just yes. Yeah, that's all I wanted to share. But thank you.
Okay, perfect. And of course, the upcoming dates are right here. And this presentation is with Josh. So if anyone wants a copy of it, please feel free because in the next slide, there is the contact info. So can we move to the next slide? Yeah, right there. Thank you, Josh. So these are the committee chairs. So for the executive committee, we have Jackson right now, grad rep, and their email is right there. For services, it's Javier, also a grad rep, email right there. Tiara's, I think she's in the meeting, but her email is also right there. For personal, it's Marhawi, grad rep, and overall for BOD stuff, it's me and my UCLA email is right there. But in a previous presentation that we did, my other, like my personal email is also there. So feel free to use either. I check both. So these are the people you would essentially reach out to if you have an issue. Just based on the way that the committees are divided, I think you can tell what issue, who you would reach out to. So essentially, if it's, for example, something like Starbucks was something that is student needs, student opinion related, it would most likely go to services. If it's something with regards to student employees, HR, that would go to personnel. If it's financial, obviously finance. And honestly, if you can't figure it out, Jackson or I email either of us, and we'll contact the chair who will discuss it in their committee. So yeah, that does bring us to the end of the presentation, but just some other things that I wanted to talk about was that throughout this quarter, the undergrad reps have been meeting with representatives from various USAC offices. We met with EVP last, and we discussed a lot of concerns that they had and followed it up with management, and we'll probably have a follow-up meeting. So that being said, we do encourage you guys to, if you want to have like a Zoom, it doesn't need to be a formal one. If you just want to have a meeting to talk through some things, to ask questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we will schedule something. Just because I mentioned the EVP thing, some of the questions that we did get based on that meeting and the answers that I've received on it, I wanted to share it with the council because other people might have similar questions which can be answered through this. So one of the questions we got was regarding the demographic of ASUCLA workers. And regarding that, there was a survey that was done in 2022, I believe, and to assess the demographics. And I did manage to get the presentation that went out after that shows like the overview. And I will share it with the EVP office in the follow-up meeting. But if anyone else is interested in knowing that demographic, please reach out to them or reach out to me and I will share it with you too. But overall, the survey, we asked people to self-identify and we compared it with the county and with the university in general. And overall, it did mirror what's happening in the county and in other with other university employers apart from ASUCLA. The second question that we got was regarding how HR proceedings work and how work complaints are addressed. And regarding this, I had a meeting with the director of HR for ASUCLA, and the way that it does work is obviously because it is HR, most of their proceedings are private out of respect and privacy concerns for the people involved. So they can't directly discuss what happened in a proceeding or anything of that sort. But the basic ladder of how HR proceedings or work complaints go is that you go to your supervisor, who is often a student supervisor. And if they fail to take it up, then you can go to the manager, or even you can go to the HR office directly, or you can contact any of the career staff in HR directly, and it will get handled. So that is the ladder that you usually take to address work complaints. But unfortunately, because of the nature of this issue, there was nothing that the director of HR could share with me that was too detailed regarding the proceedings. The last question that we got was regarding pay for ASUCLA jobs. And regarding that, I did clarify how that pay is decided and how it's established. So as we all know, when we apply for ASUCLA jobs, the pay is already listed before we applied on the website. So it's not determined after someone is hired. And the pay is aligned with the university standard, and it starts at the minimum for the LA city minimum wage, not the county, the LA city minimum wage. And yeah, and it obviously changes according to responsibility. So as most of us would have heard, is that students, they join and then they can get promoted to like supervisor, and that comes with a pay bump. So that's how pay works. And yeah, this was mainly the nature of stuff that we discussed with the EVP office. And if anyone had similar questions, I hope they were answered, or you can reach out to me if they were not, and we will talk about it. But yeah, Aisha, Evan, is there anything else we want to add? Otherwise, we're open to questions.
Kiara?
Yes.
Hi there. Thank you guys all for being here tonight and going through the presentation. Enjoyed hearing the updates. I think I'll reach out to you about the reporting process for student workers. That's something I'd love to talk more about, especially with that procedure, like some of the HR things on the HR side of things to the extent that we can look to. So I'll reach out to you about that. One of the first questions I had was about the pathway program. I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit more about like the requirements for that, like the selectiveness, like what eligibility looks like if students are required to put forward like a diagnosis of sorts, like what eligibility looks like for that program. That's my first question.
Okay, I'm gonna allow Evan or Aisha to take this since they talked about the updates, but otherwise I will talk about it.
I don't actually know that much, so you can go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, I think the basic thing, we also got a presentation about pathway at BOD, and from the presentation, what we gleaned was that it's not, so basically they have like cohorts for it, obviously, and that's how the program works. And I don't think there's like an age thing. I think it's 18 to 25 where you have to be within that age range, and that, oh, I think Pamela is raising her hand.
I am. Can
Hi.
you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. So just in regards to this program, it's actually a program with the extensions services. We're partnering with them. I actually have two of the interns in my department. And so they are actually within the extensions program. And it's like he had said, it's a 2-year program, and they are with a life coach or coach that works with them to get them acclimated to the area as they work with the managers there. So it's pretty much done internally with extensions, and the placement is just basically like an internship site of how the availability to work with them. And so we've been really gracious to have them. We just started it, so it's a new program. But it's been going really good with the 2 students that we have in the post office and programs.
Yeah. Also I wanted to add that regarding, because you asked specifically about admission criteria, regarding that, it is 18 to 25 in like age range. I think you have to have completed high school, and I think the high school is the only requirement educationally to enter the program. And yeah, those are the two that I'm aware of, but they do have a website that I can send you guys the link to, which has like an entire, like, actually I encourage everyone to watch the YouTube video on that website because it makes me both really happy and really sad. And yeah, I think everyone should watch it. But yeah, those are the two criteria that I'm aware of. It's the high school thing and it's the age thing. But other than that, I think no other hard criterias, but link to the website is right there.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I was curious about learning more about that. Thank you. And then the next question I had, I know, Evan, you're talking about how the certain processes can just take some time, which I understand you guys have different procedures that, and meetings are monthly, you said, but just wanted to ask if there is like an immediate like issue or, immediate thing to bring up or anything, like if there's a procedure of like maybe like a meeting could be called or I don't know, like whether it's like services or something else, like what if there's like any procedures in place for like an immediate issue of sorts?
I believe so. The committees that meet monthly, as far as I'm aware, are services and finance. I do believe that personnel meets kind of on like a needs basis, so it's not quite as often as once a month. But I also know that while I wasn't on the board last year, with like the protests and stuff in the spring, that they were able to have like an emergency meeting. Maybe Hia or TR, maybe you guys wanted to speak more about that.
Yeah, so there is no rule saying that we can't have emergency meetings. It's just about the urgency of the situation. So obviously, if you communicate to us something that is of like super urgent need and we have to pass something or have something done like brought to the board, we can figure that out. I would say that I have been in this situation before, and usually what happens in this case is that maybe you won't get to you won't be in like the committee meetings, and it'll be like a lot of emails like offline, off like meeting setting with the chairs and with management. So a lot of the times things, if it's not that a committee meeting is coming up and it can be handled in the regular timeline, it's just handled in a way like, oh, you tell us, we tell the person that we're supposed to tell, and a lot of the back end work gets done like through emails, through like Zoom calls that we schedule separately, and then we see when the next meeting is coming up and if we can squeeze that in. But there is always, like, if it's something of urgent need, there is a way to get the meeting called. It's usually that if it's something that, oh, something needs to be passed and it's genuinely an issue that needs to be discussed by all committee members, unfortunately in those cases you have to kind of wait for the committee meeting to come, and that's why we put the dates right there, just so everyone kind of knows when things are coming up and can prepare before. But of course, if it's an emergency, still do not hesitate to reach out, just like email us and we'll figure something out.
Gotcha. Yeah, thank you so much for the clarification, and yeah, took note of those dates and everything. So thank you for that. I just have one more question that I wanted to ask you guys. So I know, kind of going back to the kind of student worker and looking into the process of complaints and that, I was wondering, correct me if this was in the presentation at all, but has there been discussion around, or I don't know, anything that you guys have done so far or in planning regarding like active engagement, like with the student workers, like maybe putting like, whether it's like an event with like bringing students like in to speak, or, you know, like sending out forms to like kind of just engage with those students, and kind of not just at the upper level, but directly with these students that are, whether it's affected by these, like, you know, under their employee policies or other. But yeah, was curious about the current discussions or your all's thoughts on like direct student engagement.
Yeah, when I was actually talking about this issue with management, with Remy in particular, she did tell me that HR meets with students like in groups, like they go out and do like presentations, and they meet with students in like smaller sections, smaller groups based on like where they're employed. So like maybe they'll meet all the Luval workers one day and in that system. But she did tell me that HR does these presentations or meetings with students. But other than that, I think the other thing that they do is surveys, obviously, with both the student staff and career employees. But yeah, those were the two things she said to me regarding engagement.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah, I can, you know, I think that's, you know, great from the HR side, and that they're communicating and engaging with students. I will say what comes to mind though, that, you know, of course, it being not necessarily student facing, like, you know, I think you know, I'd love your all's opinions on this too, being on BOD and, you know, from your all's perspectives, but I guess a thought that comes to mind is it is a unique position that like BOD has, being students, you know, being on that board and having a connection to ASUCLA, that we can maybe also like an additional engagement from the student side that might open up another, like, you know, level of comfortability for students to discuss what their experience are, that maybe they don't feel safe bringing to HR. You know, you never know, I guess, what kind of experiences they may be having. If they're speaking to like professional staff versus a student who could then communicate that to HR professional staff, like it's great that HR does maybe broadening that. I'd be curious on your all's opinions about that. But that was a thought that came to mind, but about that kind of engagement.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's a great idea of like being able to engage. But I think so far the situation is that, as far as I know, like anyone on BOD serving as a board of director is technically not allowed to be going out and doing sort of meetings or like focus groups or anything work environment related with student employees, just because of the nature of the job, of the position that we're serving as like board of directors versus like student employees. So that could be a conflict of interest, and like it's a weird HR like gray area which is, I think, why, as far as I can connect the dots of like why that hasn't happened. But I would be happy to honestly like ask more about it. But I know that Tiara was telling me about this, that Poria does meet with every department every year. Unfortunately, I get that management coming and talking to students is one thing, and students coming and talking to students is another thing. And those are completely different impacts. I just think that as far as I know, even as student representatives, because we are on the board of directors, I don't think that permits us to have those kind of discussions. But I can follow up with that further just to find out what the actual technicality of it is. And if so, then who can do it?
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. And if honestly there are ways that my commission can support it all in terms of that engagement, figuring out, because that's where my knowledge may be limited to around like BOD's policy. So thank you for sharing that. So I don't have all the knowledge about that. So, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate your response, and yeah, would love to talk about it further another time too. Thank you.
Perfect. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you guys so much for having us and to listening to us and letting us present. But please feel free to email us with regards to any question if you want a Zoom meeting, any issue that you may have, and we will try our best. Can't promise it'll be the fastest process ever because BOD is, again, there are a lot of like financial, legal things that honestly all the undergrad reps can agree on this. We are still learning to understand and follow, but bear with us and we will try our best. But yeah, feel free to email us.
Thank you so much, Hia, and to everyone else. That was a great presentation. We're going to move on to our next agenda item. Or I think we're moving on. Yeah, we have Alicia, sorry. My agenda closed. Alicia with the MO presentation. Alicia, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi everyone. Let me share my screen. Okay. So, before we start, I just want to say, my gratitude to Ryan Factora, an alumni. He was involved in Samahan Filipino, a Mother Org Coalition, and Spear. And he was a prior campus retention committee chair as well as like a retention court earlier on in his career. But yeah, he built the bones of this and then he's presented in the past before. But because this is the new council, I just wanted to share this presentation again. But I just want to give a disclaimer that the information here is not it's not a universe, like some of the experiences shared here are not universal. Every person has a different experience as you know um if they're like a part of a mother org, everyone has different experiences. I come from the ELAS mother org. I'm currently working in a retention project for Latina students. And I've been a retention coordinator in the past as well. But yeah, my experience with the Mother Org Coalition began in my freshman year when I was a part of the Murphy Hall sit-in. So that's my experience and that's where I'm coming from. So I'm gonna start here at the table of contents. So we'll first talk about the Mother Org Coalition, who we are and why do we exist. Then we're gonna go to explaining the projects, so the CRC and the SIOC. And then we're gonna go to relationships with the community programs office for some of the mother orgs, and then we're going to go into some of the recent history and then what USAC can do. So first and foremost, not first of all, sorry. So the Mother Org Coalition is made up of these organizations: the African Student Union, Samahan Filipino, Vietnamese Student Union, Asian Pacific Coalition, Muslim Student Association, Queer Alliance, Pacific Islands Student Association, American Indian Student Association, Empowering Latinas Against Struggle, and Improving Dreams, Equity, Access, and Success. Some of you may recognize these acronyms. And yeah, you don't have to like memorize like all the like acronyms and stuff, but just be aware and like make sure you're avidly connecting with these organizations and checking in on what resources your office can bring to them. The Mother Org Coalition exists because it aims to empower groups that are historically affected by prejudice, discrimination, marginalization. And as a coalition, we shall hold ourselves to this mission to ensure that marginalized communities shall have the resources to advocate for themselves and their allies to solve community conditions. It goes from cultural nights to ethnic studies departments to conferences to grad ceremonies to yield programs. And the core of the mother orgs is the fact that they have access and retention projects. Aside to what they bring to the university, they make sure that their populations are retained and they matriculate and they graduate, and they are supported holistically, and they are not and that they don't have to depend on the institutional resources that often neglect them, such as like institutional departments that often like sometimes leave students behind, and not address like the actual conditions that the communities are facing holistically. Again, I want to reinforce this belief and value of like student ran, student initiated. That's the biggest deal. And then the access programs that make sure that students in K through 12 currently, or students in community college, or students not at UCLA have access to higher education and have the resources necessary to get to where they want to go career-wise. Doesn't have to be a 4-year, doesn't have to even be college, but just make sure that communities are supported outside of like just the UCLA population. So yeah, the definition is access. The coalition's access and outreach projects aim to ensure that underserved communities are provided with the resources and opportunities needed to access higher education. And it goes beyond that too, like I said. Retention, the coalition's retention projects work with marginalized undergrad students by supplying resources that support students in their journey to graduation. The retention projects strive for 100% retention rates for these communities. And both of these, like the SIOC and the CRC, they all have like evaluations throughout the year to make sure that goals are being met and seeing where there is room for improvement in order to better, reach students and help support students. So here are some key terms, some abbreviations you may have heard, some that you may not have. The CRC and SIOC stand for Campus Retention Committee. SIOC stands for Student Initiated Outreach Committee. The committees that oversee MO retention and access projects are these committees. Then there's CPO, the Community Programs Office, the department that houses the CRC and SIOC. It doesn't house all projects though. ASP, the Academic Supports Program, relocated to the BBRC. And then Student Affairs, the division of UCLA administration that works directly with students. The CPO is housed with UCLA Student Affairs and Campus Life. Then the SOU is a term that not everyone has heard of as much, is the Statement of Understanding. It's basically the guiding constitution. It would be like compared to like USAC bylaws. It is the document in which the committees derive their authority and their agency to use student fees for retention and access to these communities under the Mother Org Coalition. The operational budget is the permanentized budget that the committee does not get to touch when allocating money to the projects. And then the student-run ideology that the committees were founded on is defined by the fact that students know how to best serve students, especially students of the same like ethnic or racial background or religious background, because, therefore, students must be involved and spearhead and have autonomy and authority over the decision-making process of, the student ran aspect and student initiated aspect of their programs, of their projects, of their initiatives. Okay, so next session is the CRC, SIOC, and the projects. So the Campus Retention Committee has 5 projects housed under the CRC. So we have the Academic Support Program, ELA Soñar, RAIN, See Clear, SPEAR, Inspire, and WSP. And then we have the Student Initiated Outreach Committee. They have 7 projects housed under this SIOC. So there's SHAPE, Peer, Hope, Space, Maps, La Semilla, and AIR. The CRC and SIOC, along with their projects, are designed to be student-run and student-initiated, and they are funded by USAC referenda fees. So again, reinforcing the same ideology that we have here in USAC, sort of, but it's kind of stronger. The fact that it's by students, for students, paid by students, ran by students, therefore must be overseen by students. So here's where the funding and flow of money comes from. The CRC and the SIOC are intended to have full power of an allocation for student fees. So it goes from referenda, obviously, that we're all familiar with, to USAC, to the SIOC and the CRC. But it goes from USAC to CPO to SIOC. Oh, sorry, my bad. And then if after the SIOC and the CRC, like confirm like the annual yearly budget proposal, AYBP, then it is given to the projects. They still have to submit memos and stuff in order to access their money. It's not quite like SGA. But yeah, there's this buffer between USAC and SIOC and CRC, and that buffer is important. All referenda can be thought of as self-imposed taxes. Obviously, you guys know this. We vote on them in USAC elections. Around $300 of our Bruin bill goes to referenda every year, and a small portion of that referenda fee goes to the SIOC and CRC projects. Also, this number might be bigger now. Sorry if it's not accurate. I'm not sure if this number includes the Bruin Transfit referendum, but yeah, around that number. So CPO took that power away from students. Due to the recession in 2008, CPO took control of about 2 million of our student fees to ensure financial security of staff and security of resources. To some extent, we still don't know where this money is going. And there's some history in recent USAC years of like why we froze money going to CPO. Here's the next slide informing more about this relationship between the MOs and USAC. And this is just first like again, there are certain experiences that are not shared by all the MOs, by all the projects. And I want to reiterate, like, this isn't it, like this is personally like what I have experienced and what I have learned, and that like obviously like take it with a grain of salt. There is some facts to like the fiscal stuff and the like institutional relationship with CPO. But again, to go back to what I was saying, the Community Programs Office was created to serve as the administrative full-time oversight of the access, outreach, and retention projects of the mother orgs, because essentially ACC administration did not trust students to serve their own communities and wanted power over student fees. Here's a timeline, a rough timeline of what has happened since the 1960s. So the High Potential Program was created by BSU and Mecha UMAS. And yeah, ELAS is formerly Mecha, by the way. And then in 1971 to 1972, the Academic Advancement Program was created after the abolition of the High Potential Program and the EOP. In 1986 to 1987, BSA had been feeling a lack of student autonomy in AAP. FICOM Chair Bob Alvarez refused to send the SEMF funds over to AAP. BSA and Mecha come together to form the Campus Retention Committee with funds withheld from AAP. And in the 1990s, the first Campus Retention Committee consisted of BSA, Mechas, ASAs, and SPs, with VSU joining later. And then the SIOC was created later in the late 1990s after attacks on affirmative action. So there's like a lot of historical stuff going on here, right? Like the treatment of Black students on campus in the 1960s led to the abolition of the High Potential Program, which 2 Black Panthers at the time, may they rest in peace, were spearheading at the time, Bunchy Carter and John Huggins. And obviously throughout the 80s, a lot of stuff was going on, like the AIDS epidemic and just a lot of racism in the 80s, as there is now, but just in different ways, affecting communities of color in worse ways. Onward in the 2000s, CPO departmentalized was by UCLA in 2002 and came to be assigned as oversight for CRC and SIOC. In 2008, Tony Sandoval was named a director of CPO with approval at the time from MOs. In 2009, budget cuts hit the committees hard with project director positions no longer being UC funded. Tony and others have lawsuits against them, pretty serious ones. That is why I blurred out some of his name, just as a trigger warning for victims in, yeah, as related to those lawsuits. And it created divides within the MOs and built power in committees. And some MOs later, in more recent years, released a letter saying there are violations of the Statement of Understanding, which I mentioned earlier, which is basically the Constitution giving authority to the projects, demanding transparency for committee funds, and the resignation of admin. And in 2020 to 2021, specific incompetence, retaliation to ASU, SP, and BSU mother orgs. And yeah, there are dynamic relationships happening. CPO continues to provide transportation, human resources management, and a variety of other support services that in some ways like provide better experiences to some projects than they do to others. I feel like this is worded badly. I every experience is different. That doesn't mean one experience is worth more than the other. That just means there is a lot going on institutionally. That shouldn't be going on, and all projects should be treated with the same fairness and the same respect as they are. Not all projects share the same level of support and responsiveness from like CPO administration, and some like have been hindered, like logistically and institutionally have been hindered with like the bureaucratic systems of CPO. And yeah, it could be like from small things to like putting up posters without like projects knowledge and stuff, or like input and stuff, to like lawsuits and the treatment that certain staff in the projects face from CPO admin. Um, there are some problems institutionally, like financial transparency, like I said, hostile and unsafe work environments. The director of CPO has 3 civil lawsuits filed against him, and it pushed like it basically made ASP the move out of the building of SAC because they had been faced with hostile and unsafe like environments to work. It got to that point, and there have been many other projects that have like considered finding another place to house their space because of these conditions. And there's also the fact that there's administrative overstep and incompetence, the lack of transparency with expectations and guidelines, and also just like treatment is not good. And yeah, these problems threaten student autonomy and empowerment at UCLA. That's the biggest problem. Like no matter what experiences, like how different experiences are, the fact that CPO oversteps in their role to threaten like student agency and like power over their resources, their statement of understanding, their projects, is a problem. So over the past like 5 years, in May of 2021, alumni, students, and MO members rallied together to protest the hostility of CPO. They met with the chancellor soon after. Despite these efforts, UCLA administration continued to allow CPO to damage some student empowerment and autonomy. And this should matter to us because we are USAC and because CPO does abuse some of the fees that we pay every year and that we oversee. So here's some USAC involvement in recent years in regards to these issues. There were slates and statements of understanding. USAC today is largely is largely a result of MO coalition organizing efforts that radically reshaped the USAC landscape for over 50 years. So formed with the idea to transform the event-centered USAC into an arm for empowerment and support for marginalized students, the MO Coalition finds its roots in the Third World Coalition, a USAC slate that was active in the 70s. Since then, various MO-derived or MO-backed slates, I can't remember the acronyms for these, I'm sorry. And candidates have run and won seats on council and utilized them to advance student autonomy and agency over student-initiated, student-ran spaces across campus. This MO led transformation of student politics at UCLA and the birth of new partnership between the coalition and USAC helped to lead the negotiations with administration that resulted in the Statement of Understanding. These documents are a legally binding agreement on how the CRC and SIOC referenda fees must be allocated and how the funds, projects, and the spaces as a whole must be governed. They emphasize and guarantee student authority and oversight over all these matters and empower the university to provide necessary requested administrative support and oversight. Since the signing of the SOUs, USAC has largely played a defensive role, while when comprised of members backed or from MOs, USAC has often joined the coalition in demanding the respect and the following of the SOU and echoed the concerns of the coalition. Specifically, USAC has been involved in the following ways: exercising their appointment power and appointing the proxies to the CRC and SIOC after meeting in an agreed criteria of knowledge, respect, and embrace the spaces in their central mission and ideology to create a line of defensive votes and members that keep administration accountable, working to support the coalition in garnering respect to approve new referenda that fund the SIOC and CRC. These are some of the names for previous referenda, by the way. Passing resolutions denouncing acts of disempowerment, harassment, and or fiscal management. At the times, the resolutions also withheld referendum fees from the CPO, most notably November 2021 to present, and withholding fees as a tactic to obtain necessary pertinent financial information and or support MO coalition demands. So back when my experiences all started where in Murphy Hall sit-in in 2021 to 2022, a majority of council members were on or allies for a slate called For the People, a slate that was backed by the MOs. In November 2021, USAC anonymously voted to pass a resolution that holds the student fees that are distributed to CPO until the demands of the mother organizations are met. These demands include the removal of CPO as administrative oversight and the removal of Antonio Sandoval as CPO director and more. But the Murphy Hall sit-in was also largely based on accessible education at the same time. Yeah, I just wanted to make that note. It was a strike for safety. So yeah, after withholding fees in fall 2021, USAC joined DSU and the MOs for the strike for our safety in winter 2022. So it was initially centered around like the problems with accessibility in terms of having courses completely be switched to in-person classes right after a really big COVID spike after the winter break. And just in general, we were still in a pandemic then as we are now. But the 16-day Murphy Hall sit-in expanded to yield the current state of affairs for the SIOC, CRC, and 3 individual MOs. So notable results from this are like the launch of the external review, revised hiring policies, and introduction of sole intermediary. So what can we do? As USAC, it's our job to uphold and respect the statements of understanding. It is our job to defend the student-initiated, student-ran spaces from administrative negligence and overstepping. It is our job to ensure fiscal transparency and soundness over student referenda fees. It is our job to serve and support students directly, especially those the most marginalized, including by the university. And yeah, like by joining the movement, by actually connecting with all MOs, I would say outreaching individually to MOs would be the best way to completely understand their needs specifically. So explore research, explore testimonies, explore like the history behind the Mother Org Coalition and the projects, put the voices of these communities at the forefront, ask questions, maintain stable, secure communication with MOs, and reach out and ask questions, and obviously use your office to uplift them directly. Join one if it pertains to your identity, and yeah, stay updated. I wanted to close out too before I ask you guys if you have any questions. And just clarify that like the reality is that the SIOC and CRC are mere years away from being completely financially insolvent without either surrendering control to the university in exchange for funding or running new referenda, or at least amending to be tied to some inflation. Like the financial situation for the projects is getting really, really bad, because as the projects need to expand, they need to have more money to support more students, because at the end of the day, these are students supporting students. Students supporting students need to be like supported as well at the same time. That's kind of the philosophy of everything. Student initiated, student ran spaces are kept alive by students, and as you know, in hopes for populations of all these mother orgs to grow at this campus, for there to be more access to this university for them. There needs to be an expansion of the projects, but there can't be an expansion of the projects without having more funding. There hasn't been a referendum since I believe like 2016. And so it's been really tough for like projects to be able to expand as their needs are, because there hasn't been referenda in a while. And yeah, like it's not looking good in the next coming years. But at the end of the day, the core issue at hand, no matter like what different experiences and diverse experiences there are from different communities, at the end of the day, students are demanding autonomy and ownership for what they struggled for. And I think that everyone can unite around that, because students deserve power, students deserve authority over the issues that they face, over the resources they've created to mitigate the issues that the institution has presented them. And yeah, a lot of orgs and spaces have had many flaws, but they still need to be supported no matter where they're from, where they're at, what their experience is. They all deserve authority and power over their projects, over the resources that impact their communities. And yeah, I wanted to close out with that and ask if there are any questions or clarifications from people.
Does anyone have any questions for Alicia? Seems like none. I don't have any questions either, but that was an amazing presentation, Alicia. And I might be reaching out to you separately to discuss some of the stuff. But thank you so much for that. We're now going to move on to our appointments. We have two CPC appointments. Our first one being Nalin. And just a reminder for appointment applicants of how this works. We're going to start off with a 1-minute opening statement, followed by a 15-minute question and answer period, then closing off with a 1-minute closing statement. After that, we're going to hear ARC's recommendations, have council deliberations, and then vote. With that being said, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me. Good evening. My name is Nalin Jaiswal. My pronouns are he, him. I am a third-year economics and cognitive science double major with a minor in environmental systems and society, as well as a specialization in computing in addition to my cognitive science major. I come from India. I'm an international student, and that's a very big part of the reason why I'm applying to the CPC. I remember when I came here, I was extremely homesick since it was a huge culture shock being in the US, being raised in a family in India. The culture is way more collectivistic there, where huge focus is placed on the community. And I remember that going to a lot of student-led events and a lot of events that were held on campus by student organizations was the sole thing that helped me move out of my shell and grow as a person. And I want to join CPC to now effectively give back to that same community that helped me become part of this campus.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move into the 15-minute question and answer period. Do any council members have any questions for the applicants? Chris Ramsey?
Hey, Nolan, I just have one question. Basically in CPC, there's a lot of different programs and a lot of different student organizations that request funding. And so you kind of have a dual mandate. So firstly, you want to be able to provide funding to be able to support like a wide variety and to really just support the diversity on campus with all these different organizations that are requesting fundings and want to have programs. But at the same time, you have to stay within budget, just because there's a limited amount of, a limited amount of funding. So that in mind, what are the main considerations that you'd have when deciding whether to give full funding to an application, partial funding, or not fund it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. Competing interests in a campus as wide as diverse as UCLA, I think we have about more than 1,000 clubs, I think is one of the main challenges that I think CPC faces. I do have prior experience handling large sums of money. I am an intern at a venture capital firm, and that really places me in a position of having some sort of experience handling some money. My main job in that firm is sourcing startups that come from underrepresented minority backgrounds and helping them receive the money they need to become successful. So I do have some background in dealing with even minority groups. And I think the best thing that we can do is also two-pronged. One is having a set rubric, and second is allowing for some flexibility in the way we view these organizations. The set rubric that I think we should definitely use and that goes along with the mandate of the CPC is first we see their impact. If the proposed event is creating enough impact for the community on campus, and I know that the CPC is mainly in charge of cultural and educational programming, so the impact assessment should be based off exactly that. Secondly, inclusivity. I know that we also have a charge on increasing the representation of minority and underrepresented groups on campus, and they definitely deserve a shot at having events that uphold their community values. So is the event inclusive enough? Are all students invited to the event? Or even if not, is the event doing enough for for the community that the event is for? And third is, like you said, feasibility. And this really determines whether they should be partially funded or fully funded. Has the club that's planning to hold the event, have they planned enough? Is their financial planning justified enough to hold that particular event? Are they spending on things that will actually give value to their particular event? This is the first prong. We should use this standardized criteria for judging all clubs, whether they come from whether they have a lot of members, whether they have a few members. This is super important so that we are fair to the entire UCLA student population. And the second prong I talked about is being a bit more flexible with the lens we view these clubs. When I look at minority startups that come to our VC firm, there's not a lot of data to go by and judge them. They only have a few metrics that I can judge them by and then handle a very large sum of money that our firm has been entrusted with. And a lot of the times you have to go and look at the story behind these founders. And this completely echoes the sentiment the previous speaker during their presentation about the mother orgs was also saying. We really need to go and listen to the stories behind these clubs, the stories and the actual impact and importance that their events have to the UCLA student body, and use that to also make a fair judgment of whether we fund that event or not. I hope that that answered some of your question.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Nolan.
Do any other council members have questions? Seeing none, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1 minute closing statement.
Thank you for having me, everyone. I would just want to touch upon one of my other experiences that's been key to my campus life is founding Bruin Finance Society. That's one of UCLA's biggest and first open to all finance clubs. We also founded that on the basis of equity, diversity, and being inclusive to everyone. So this whole idea of being open to all and being fair to everyone plays a huge part in my campus life. And now we give financial knowledge to over 1,000 people. Chris is actually the president of that club. So I would love to do some similar work at CPC and help make UCLA feel like home to everyone, just like these student organizations made me feel like home when I was a freshman who was very homesick and missing my home. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're now going to move on to ARC's recommendations.
Nolan presented an excellent interview to ARC. ARC was impressed with Nolan's financial background, having started a consulting club that focused on supporting startups created by underrepresented groups. ARC was excited to see some of Nolan's goals, including ensuring that funds are equitably distributed by focusing on the impact of the event when determining allocations. With a 3-0 vote, ARC recommends Nolan for this appointment.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to council member deliberations. Does anyone have any comments or concerns about the applicant? Tamim, followed by Ramsey.
Hey guys, I just want to say that I'll be abstaining from today's vote. I know Nathan in a personal capacity. He's one of the friends I made in my personal first year. He's a great guy. He gets the job done. I play cricket with him. So that's why I'll be abstaining from the vote. He is a guy with good characters. That's all the praise I can give him. So yeah, I would suggest you guys vote yes, but you guys can use your best judgment. Thank you.
Hey everyone. So yeah, Nolan's a very good friend of mine. I know him personally. We also did found BFS together. So I will be abstaining from this vote. That being said, having been on CPC last year, I do think that Nolan's going to do just a great job in CPC. He's very smart. He works very hard. And I think he has what it takes to be able to make just good judgments on all the applications that they get. So I highly recommend voting for him.
Thank you so much. With that being said, can we please get a motion? Tamim?
Motion to appoint Nalan Jaiswal to the CPC for the academic year 2024-2025.
I second.
Tamim motions, Josh seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Tamim, you're abstaining, no?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10-0 vote, that motion's approved and Naleen is appointed to CPC.
Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. We're now going to move on to our second CPC appointment with Hannah. Hey, Hannah.
Can everyone hear me? Sorry about that.
I can hear you perfectly. Whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute opening.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Trong. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm currently majoring in computer science, and I'm a third year. Growing up in a town with limited support, I quickly came to appreciate the importance of programs that celebrate diversity and foster learning beyond the classroom, especially after seeing and being involved in the abundance of clubs at UCLA that were dedicated to enriching our campus. Their commitment to creating spaces where students of all backgrounds can feel supported is a mission that I'm passionate about advancing through CPC. I believe I would be a strong candidate for this role due to my experiences in leadership, organization, and program management. As a secretary at my local Taekwondo center and Key Club, I coordinated events and oversaw monthly budgeting and expense forms. In addition, my role as a media coordinator and former intern with the Vietnamese Student Union at UCLA allowed me to collaborate on budget planning and cultural initiatives with marginalized communities that promote inclusivity on campus. Volunteering at these events and helping others celebrate their identities and educational journeys has been incredibly fulfilling, and it motivates me to help ensure these programs receive the funding they need.
Thank you so much, Hannah. We're now going to move on to the 15-minute question and answer period. Do any council members have any questions for Hannah? Chris Ramsey.
Hey Hannah, same questions with Nolan. So as I mentioned, there's two goals that CPC, or two kind of restrictions that CPC has to work around. So firstly, there is that budget constraint, because you have limited budget for the year. But at the same time, you also want to be able to fund and support as many orgs as possible and to make sure that you provide adequate funding for a wide variety of diverse communities at UCLA. So with that in mind, what considerations would you have when you're deciding whether or not to fund a group in full, to provide partial funding, or not provide any funding?
Right. Thank you so much for your question. So in my eyes, I think the biggest goal is prioritizing funding for underdeserved communities as well as time-sensitive programs. I know CPC works in cycles, so being able to prioritize events that are coming up sooner and then partially funding events that may come later, as well as having, like Nolan said, a clear-cut criteria so that each club, no matter how many people they may impact or how many people are currently in the org, they get an equal opportunity to apply for funding and also being able to have equitable amounts for each club through clear criteria. Also, communication with student organization leaders helps make sure that we can divide funds equitably. Marginalized communities, we need to understand their specific needs and struggles because each one has different ones. And from there, we can see how much funding they may need. And through itemized budget forms, we can also figure out where are funds being allocated to and if they deserve that funding for allocation, which also can help us determine, full versus partial funding. Yeah, thank you so much for your question.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah.
Do we have any other questions for Hannah? Seeing none, Hannah, whenever you're ready, please go ahead with your 1-minute closing statement.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I know you have a very busy meeting. I'm excited about possibly dedicating my time to be able to help support both our campus and surrounding communities through CPC. My vision for this role is to help our programs ensure they can access the resources they need to create impactful, supportful, and inclusive environments for all students. I believe that with my background, I can meaningfully contribute to CPC to empower programs that promote educational and/or cultural growth. Although I have limited experience with financial forms and the logistical processes of CPC, I'm motivated to learn and grow in these areas and others to enhance my effectiveness as a representative. I'm passionate about building an inclusive campus culture and helping student organizations make a lasting impact on our communities as well as surrounding communities around UCLA. I'm ready to bring my commitment to CPC, and I look forward to the chance to make a difference. Thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you so much. We are now going to hear ARC's recommendations.
Hannah had an excellent interview with ARC. Having served as a coordinator in VSU, Hannah demonstrated a strong passion for supporting cultural and educational events. Hannah also demonstrated a commitment to equitably funding organizations by analyzing the impact of their programs in the past and what communities the program intends to support. ARC recommends Hannah for this appointment with a 3-0 vote.
Thank you, Josh. We're now going to move on to council member deliberations. Do any council members have any concerns or comments about the applicant? If not, could we please get a motion? Chris Ramsey.
I motion to appoint Hannah Trong to the Campus Programs Committee.
I second.
Chris Ramsey motions, Kiara seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10-0 vote, that motion passes and Hannah is appointed to CPC. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to speaking with you guys more.
We're now going to move on to our final applicant of the day. We have a consent item application for the Drug-Free School Committee. Josh, could we hear ARC's recommendations?
Ranesh had a fantastic interview with ARC. As the Assistant Commissioner in SWC, ARC has no doubt that Ranesh will be successful on this committee due to his relationship with numerous health and drug-related clubs such as End Overdose. ARC is looking forward to seeing Ranesh carry out some of his goals on this committee, including improving Narcan accessibility on campus. ARC recommends Ranesh for this appointment with a 3-0 vote.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to that appointment? Seeing none, Ranesh is appointed to the Drug-Free School Committee. We're now going to move on to officer reports. Everything for me is going to be written. My one highlight is that I'm in San Francisco right now for the Regents meeting, where I'm going to be for the next 2 days. And I'll update everyone after that. Also, I'm going to pass it off to Josh for officer reports just for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then I'll be back.
Sounds good. For me, I'll just keep mostly everything written. Just the one thing I did this week is I met with the SVAC chair and vice chair, and I also presented to SVAC about some priorities that IBP and USAC would like to see in terms of student funding. And then also the Congressional Advisory Board is having a mixer with ACC Bond, USAC, and student organization leaders next Wednesday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The cab chair sent out an RSVP email, so if you're interested in attending or if you have someone in your office that's interested in attending, please have them fill out the RSVP form. And then no one from EBP is here, so I'll pass it off to Diego.
Hi, everyone. We're going to keep it in the written officer reports.
Thank you so much. Tommy?
Hey, so for this week, GR2 is going to be hosting its financial literacy night. So a bunch of funding bodies are going to be there. So if you or you have friends that are part of student orgs that are looking for funding, that's going to be next Wednesday. And then we're also going to be hosting an Ask Me 3229 XGR2 solidarity event, which that will be next Tuesday right before council meeting. So if you guys are free then, feel free to pull up, and we'd love to see your support. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris Ramsey.
Hey everyone, I'm going fully written today.
Thank you, Chris Espino or Proxy Angela.
Yeah, so if you guys could please refer to the written notes, that would be all. But thanks.
Thank you so much, Robbie.
Hey guys, busy week in CEC world. Tomorrow we have a speakers event with Basically Unfiltered Live. They're a podcast group. That'll be at the Lennart Auditorium. That'll be a lot of fun. And then following that on Thursday, we have an advanced screening of Gladiator 2, which is super duper awesome, slated to be one of the biggest films of the year. So come on out if you have any interest in that. Or if you want to be a little more magical, a week from today, we're going to be hosting a screening of Wicked, with an advanced screening of Wicked with Melnitz Movies. And so that'll be really fun. There may or may not be a special guest there. No, it's not Ariana Grande, so don't get too excited, but potentially could be a special guest there. But other than that, we're just chugging along.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia.
Wait, is it me or Carolyn?
Oh, so sorry, Carolyn.
Oh, hi, sorry. Okay, yeah, you can look at my written report, but one thing I wanted to announce is that alternative breaks applications are out. So this is a week-long trip during spring break that CSE puts on. There's 3 different sites, one focused on incarceration advocacy, one focused on health literacy, and then one focusing on immigration. Our site leaders are hard at work planning those. So please do apply by this Friday and spread the word. And CSE is also hosting a basic needs holiday drive starting next week. So more details to come on that. The rest you can refer to on my written report.
Awesome. Thank you, Alicia.
My reports are written, but tomorrow we have an event with ASA and PISA called Indigenous Expressions, formerly Native Expressions. And please pull up. There'll be so much art, performances. Yeah, all around. It'll be really fun. You should come.
Thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Josh. We're gonna have Alex next.
Hi, everyone. I'll refer to my written report. Thank you.
Nico.
It's gonna all be Bren. Thank you.
Kiara.
You can refer to my written report for most updates. The only thing I wanted to, actually 2 things. One event coming up, Brew Necessities is having their dental hygiene fair tomorrow. There'll be a lot of free resources there. And then I actually had a question for ASUCLA related folks that I wanted to ask. I met with Brew and Dine this past week, and I had talked with them about expanding their food recovery locations on campus to like ASUCLA, food locations on campus. And so was wondering who would be the best point of contact to connect them with for that.
Pamela, I believe, is best to answer that question. I don't know if Pamela's still with us.
Yeah. Oh, maybe she left.
Yeah, she's on. But yeah, let's connect offline and we'll connect you to the appropriate person.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I'll send an email right now.
Great.
Next, we have Muna.
Sorry, it took me a second to find the unmute button. You can refer to my written report for most of my updates, but something upcoming we have for the TSR office is our commuter mixer this Thursday from 5 to 7 p.m. In the Bruin Hub on Stratmore. So tell any commuters you know to show up to our event. Thank you.
And last but not least, we have Tamim.
Hey guys, a few updates, two main updates or major announcements. We are having the Bruins Around the World next Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. I know that it's during USAC council meeting, but if anyone in your office is interested, please tell them to come up. We'll have awesome food. We'll have a lot of cool performances. Would love to see everyone there. We also have an international networking alumni event where international alumni from UCs basically come and speak to students. So that will be on Monday, November 18th from 6:30 to 7:30. So those are the two main things. Everything else can be referred to in the officer report. Thank you.
Thanks, Sameem. We're now going to move on to admin reps, starting with Orlando.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. I do not have any updates.
Thank you, Orlando. We're going to move on to Jessica.
No updates, thanks.
Lori,
Nothing from me.
Peter,
Nothing for me, but Alicia, that was an amazing presentation. So thank you.
and last but not least, we have Jonathan.
Hey, hi, hello, all. Super quick from me today. Just waiting on one-on-one signups from Javi, Diego, and Alex. And then Thursday and Friday of this week, I will be at the Association of College Unions International Conference down in San Diego. So I'll have my phone, I'll be online, everything. But if you need anything, please connect with Lorelai. And have a great week, all.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're now going to move on to new business, starting off with a letter from Diego called A Letter to Support Expansion of Brew and Dine Food Distribution and Recovery Locations. Diego, according to your purview, whatever you want, you can read through it all or summarize it. Your call.
Everyone, I'm going to just read the first paragraph, and just give a little bit of overview of what this letter is. As you can tell, it's a letter calling for support in expansion of brew and dine food distribution and recovery locations. I guess the main primary audience is Administrative Vice Chancellor Michael Beck, but it's also just targeted towards the entire UCLA community. Hopefully, kind of what Kara was mentioning, kind of creating the goal of preventing food waste on campus, and expanding and addressing food insecurity. So I can just read the first paragraph. We are Brew and Dine, a fundamental basic needs resource and student-led sustainability organization at UCLA. Our mission is to combat food insecurity on campus and reduce UCLA's carbon emissions, and we do so by recovering hot, overproduced food from UCLA dining halls and redistributing it to UCLA for free at food recovery events. All of our events are open to the public, and we have since attracted a substantial following of UCLA community members who rely on our services. Since our student-run organization began in 2018, we have expanded from hosting one food recovery event per week to 3 recoveries per week. And each event, we provide food from Epicuria, Brew and Plate, Denev, and Kirchhoff Coffee House, in addition to Poly Pavilion on occasion. In the 2023-2024 school year alone, we recovered 8,455 pounds of food and served over 5,920 free meals. And then the rest of the letter is just making arguments and asking administration for support in expanding food recovery at UCLA dining and ASUCLA run restaurants.
Thank you, Diego. Do any council members have any questions or comments for Diego? Jonathan?
Yeah, I dropped a little bit this in the Slack, but the way that this letter is written, it's coming from Brew and Dine, which is totally fine. You all can vote to sign on to that as a council. But because it's written from Brew and Dine, it really isn't appropriate for it to be on USAC letterhead because Brew and Dine isn't one of your organizations. If it was going to be coming from USAC itself, you would need to put it in resolution format, in which case that would be fine. But at this current junction, if we could remove the letterhead, that would be great.
Diego, are you able to remove that before we approve? Okay, wait, I'll just remove it. Oh, I don't have editing power, never mind. If anyone that can edit can remove it, that would be great. But in the meantime, can we get a motion to approve the letter? Kiara,
I motion to approve the letter to support expansion of brew and dine food distribution and recovery locations.
I second.
Kiara motions, Tamim seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11 to 0 votes, the sign-on letter passes and we're signed on. We're now going to move on to OSAC allocations with Alex. Alex, I'm not sure if you just want to highlight the changes. Because we just apported some more.
Yeah, I prepared a statement if that's okay. I wasn't sure like how much I'm allowed to talk.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Hi everyone. So allocating for OSAC was extremely difficult this cycle, as we had only 6 slots and 18 applications, and the entire committee discussed each allocation in length. Many amazing and crucial orgs for students that provide service and community to our USAC community were not able to be allocated due to the competitiveness and amount of slots that we had. This allocation cycle, we prioritized mother orgs who were given priority because they represent the interests and needs of more than one org on campus, making the impact and reach of their work wide and valuable to student advocacy and interests. In terms of the other 2 categories, which we mentioned in our outreach on the OSAC page, which was impact and office space. In terms of impact, we considered what safe space does this resource provide for, or does this org provide for students? What community spaces, events, and resources does this organization provide the student community? And we also took in the estimated impact of initiatives and events of organizations as well. And then in terms of office space, due to the sorry, what was I gonna say? Small amount of space in each office because they are mostly or all shared offices. The organizations allocated to mentioned using their spaces to further facilitate their organizations to expand on or continue their support for students. And they also mentioned using their offices for office functions such as meeting and planning sessions. And organizations that emphasize storage needs were unfortunately less prioritized due to the limited space in the shared offices and fire code issues in past allocation cycles. What was I going to say? For the 2026 cycle, we will be writing a more expanded grading rubric for transparency. But because this was a allocation cycle following the past one, there was a quick turnaround. And then additionally, an internal project in FAC is working on space resources for student orgs as a new focus this year, as we have seen in the amount of applications and storage needs expressed by student orgs, that this is a critical point in time for student orgs to get support in terms of space, not just from USAC, but also from departments and other UCLA departments. What was I going to say? Information about this project and resources will be posted to the FAC and OSAC Instagrams before the end of this quarter. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please express them. I know we have 2 orgs on here who we are actively advocating for and discussing their needs with, which is GCGP and Brew and Dine. They both have storage needs, which, you know, the office needs of their orgs could be met through the Kirkhoff spaces, but you know, as we've all heard and discussed, that they need more support from admin, and I'm really happy that we have 2 of those initiatives going on right now. But yeah, if you have any questions, please let us know. We can talk about it. We all have to vote on this as a council, so please make your voice heard.
Do we have any questions for Alex and OSAC in general before we move on to allocating? Sounds good. Could you please get a motion then? Alex.
I motion to approve the OSAC allocations.
Yep.
I second.
Or I think just to be specific, could you say OSAC allocations for the 24 to 26 cycle?
I motion to approve the OSAC allocations for the 2024 to 2026 cycle.
I second.
Alex motions, Kiara seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 10 to 0 vote, our OSAC allocations are approved for this cycle. And we're going to move on to line item C. We have Carolyn with a discussion on the current status of GCGP.
Hi everyone. Okay, so as you all probably know, Good Clothes Good People was, I guess, kicked out of their center in the early, or I guess at the early fall slash late summer, but they were able to secure an extension. However, we're still pursuing different options with them. As we can see, GCGP was just rejected from OSAC, and yeah, I know this was for several reasons, but I guess to start with, OSAC was not necessarily the best route to go down, in my opinion, because even though like it would be a space within Kirchhoff, it'd be a space like in the third or fourth floor, which would be an issue of accessibility. Also, OSAC is kind of meant to be used as office space, and this would be a full like basic needs redistribution center rather than just like an office space of an organization. So it really should never have really been the solution, but this was like something that was recommended by us to do from ASUCLA, from administration, and now that door has officially closed. So I just want to share that as an update and also kind of ask, like, what is ASUCLA and campus administration doing to find spaces? Because now the student-led solutions that we've been pursuing have not been working out. I think Pamela, we're still like discussing some things on the solution in Kirchhoff. So I would really appreciate if we can get a response to that email, and then we'll set up like a meeting after that. But I just kind of want to share the update is that they still do not have a space secured. Though they do have an extension, it's not definite, and we don't know kind of when that's going to end. So we do want to secure a solution as soon as possible. And students on our end have been working hard to try to secure that, but now that OSAC is closed and other options are up in the air, it is quite alarming that the only basic needs center that has physical items that is also fully student run may have to shut down by the end of the year if there's not a space. So I just kind of wanted to open up if anyone had any thoughts on this, and if any staff, yeah, if like anyone has just like any solutions, any ideas, as well as just wanted to emphasize that like us as students have tried our best to get solutions done, but now that OSAC is closed, which honestly never probably was the best option in the first place, we really do need the support of ASUCLA and administration to help us find those venues. But yeah, that's just the update from my end.
Okay, just a few clarifications, maybe for anyone that's watching or anyone on council, on why OSAC didn't allocate, and I'm sure maybe Alex can talk more about this if she wants to. First, and I think most importantly, it shouldn't be our job to find space for a basic needs center. That responsibility lies and should lie on the shoulders of admin, which is why we didn't want to cop out that responsibility by taking away space from other student orgs. Second, there literally is no space. You can check the charts and how big the rooms are. There's like no space that would work at all. The biggest room that might have been possible is shared between like 4 orgs, and they've already been allocated. And it's this whole other thing. And then obviously we per our guidelines on our bylaws, all office space has to be used for office purposes and not um for storage or distribution. So it's not a matter of us not wanting to allocate or give GCGP a space. It's more so there's just a lot of different variables at play that almost made it impossible. And we do have some other avenues that we're exploring. A lot of them that we can't mention yet. I know Alex and Carolyn and I have been talking about one of those avenues. But with that being said, let's hear from Kiara and Josh.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, no, I want to just echo everything Carolyn said, especially as, we have the guidance that have been gotten, especially from UCLA, is to pursue the different routes that we have outside of the ones that we've already explored, and, OSAC being one of them. So I just want to stress that what Carolyn said, that GCGP and others within that have been working very hard to look at those routes. And so want to really stress the importance of going back to, again, the other routes and what is currently being done on admin side and the other. I know Pamela left, but I'm not sure if anyone else here, just like Jessica or anyone else who's like, Jonathan's been involved in those conversations as well, as aware of any updates and any ongoing conversations of what is maybe being talked about on your all's side of things, since this one also just stressed the great urgency of this, as we are, next week is week 8, and we're getting towards the end of the quarter, and they don't know where they're going to be at yet next quarter. And I think that's a very stressful and just situation to put them in, for them and their organization. And so, yeah, just want to echo everything Carolyn said. Oh, I see Pamela is here. Great. Hi, Pamela. Just, yeah, wanted to echo what Carolyn has said and then ask what the current discussions are on your all's end of things, of what that space could look like moving forward for GCGP and any work that's currently being done on your all's end.
Hi everyone. Again, this is Pamela. Carolyn, I did respond to your email. I will be at a conference this week, but if you all can provide your availability, we can meet to discuss when I return in regards to that. As far as movement, it's been pretty much the same, that we have the steps that are in the email as far as the different spaces for that. That's as far as we've moved in regards to that. Now with USAC and GSA, those are 2 entities that we have to work with. So I look forward to talking with you all more as we meet next week or the week after.
Really quickly, just to follow up on that, if I may, so now that we are getting, I know you said scheduling a meeting then next week or the next, that would be, like, of course, like week 8, week 9. From your perspective, what, I guess, like, time, as this is very urgent, like, what are the immediate, I guess, like, action steps, anything? I know you said setting up a meeting, but just in that meantime, to make sure that there's a space that they know that they will have somewhere to house their items and their organization and for the remainder of the year. So just want to ask about that.
That I will need updates for you all. I'm not aware of what I've heard they received an extension, correct?
Yeah,
So
they
I
did
believe
reverse
their items
extension.
are not being removed by the
gotcha.
end of the year, correct?
Correct. They would be removed in the spring, but that is the, like, I
Okay.
mean, by spring quarter, the start of spring, or by spring break. But as we know, things do take time, especially following all these procedures, which we absolutely want to do. So I think we just
I
want to
understand.
get the
I
ball
just wanted
rolling
to
now.
confirm that
Yeah.
point. Okay, then please respond and let's have our meeting next week.
Yes, we will do that. And we'd appreciate if you're able to respond to kind of some of the concerns that we brought up as well beforehand, like over email, and then we can join and discuss that if possible.
Josh?
Yeah, I'll just keep it brief, since I think Carolyn and Kara addressed a lot of the points I wanted to address. OSAC was really supposed to be like sort of the last resort option, and since that clearly didn't work out and really isn't a viable option, I think it's imperative that we get even more admin support, especially from ASUCLA. Either in Kirkhoff or in SAC, it's really imperative that we get admin support to find a space for literally the only group on campus that provides actual physical items for students through the Basic Needs Center. Also, I just wanted to say that I think it's also really important that we continue to include the GCGP leaders in these conversations as well, and ensure that they're following the route that we're planning to go on.
Thank you, Josh. We also do have a bylaw change later today that is related to GCGP. With that being said, does anyone else have any comments or anything to talk about? Karen?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention again, thank you everyone for listening to the updates and all the support that we've gotten thus far. I know that on our end, we're all working really hard to get the solution, so I really appreciate it. Yeah, so I guess the only pending action items would just be to set up a meeting with Pamela. Pamela, before that meeting, if you're able to respond to those questions that we had that were lingering, and then we can discuss those in the meeting further. But yeah, I appreciate everyone being helpful, and I look forward to working towards a solution as soon as possible, as this is an urgent matter.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you everyone else. We're going to move on to our final agenda item of the night. We have the bylaw change from Alex. Alex, we just want to explain what it does very briefly, and then we'll vote on it.
Oh, thank you. Hi everyone. So sorry, let me pull up my little explanation. Let's see. So first, and people, is Alicia still on the call? Sorry, I don't know if this is a discussion, right?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, cool. So to my knowledge, SACBOG has not been active for at least the past couple years. SACBOG is, or the Student Activity Center Board of Governors, is the governing body of the budget and policies of SAC and is given power by the Spark referendum passed in the early 2000s. Sorry, I'm like, Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I have gathered. Previously, there were 4 allocations appointed by the Facilities Commission, which was one at-large appointment or having no stipulations for being qualified for the appointment, one CRC or Campus Retention Committee appointment, one SIOC or Student Initiated Outreach Committee appointment, and one Community Programs Office Student Association Committee appointment. Sorry, that was a lot of words. Due to the urgency expressed by admin to fill these spots and the difficulty of past FAC offices, talking to past people in FAC, and filling these appointments, I am putting forward this bylaw change to fill these appointment slots before the planned resuming of SACBOG meetings in winter quarter of 2025, which was expressed by admin. The new proposed bylaws will include 3 at-large appointments, which means that students appointed for these positions can be from within offices within SAC, CRC members, SIOC members, students who utilize SAC resources, students representing a mother org, USAC members, or students within the general student population, emphasizing anyone. And then the 4th spot will be filled by a representative from either the CRC or the SIOC to overall lessen the specific requirements of SACBOG appointments. So just because that last 4th appointment is either CRC or SIOC does not mean that students from those organizations can't be appointed. Those will just be the requirement for this bylaw change. And then following this being approved in the next meeting, FAC will outreach to CRC and SIOC to inform them on SACBOG applications this week and request that any interested students apply so the appointment process can conclude by week 10. So that's just like an extra thing. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, we can also discuss this before the next meeting as well. But yes.
Jonathan?
Yeah, perhaps we've already done this. If so, feel free to ignore me, but please just make sure that you check with the SACBOG charter before going through with this bylaw change, because I'm not sure. I haven't seen it myself recently. But these stipulations may be a part of the charter, in which case you all would not be able to make these changes.
I think it is Alex. I'm not sure if you read it, but Lori, you can go ahead.
Alex, if you want to talk through the SAC charter, I can put you in touch with Dion and Beth from SAC if you need.
Perfect, thank you. Yes, I talked to some other USAC members, but I'll confirm before the next meeting as well. Thank you. Oh, Josh.
I just had 2 questions. Is the charter binding, and was it passed as part of the referendum when the referendum was initially passed? For ACCLA reps here.
Yes, I would say so, but I need to see it again.
I think we can do all this research and discussion offline, hopefully before next week. And then we can make necessary changes if we discover anything. Does anyone have any final comments? Seeing none, I adjourn this meeting at 9:13 p.m. Thank you all so much for coming.